Smallpox killed more human beings than any other disease in history, more than the Black Death, more than every war of the 20th century combined. In the 20th century alone, the best estimates put the death toll somewhere between 300 and 500 million people. Then, in 1980, the World Health Organization did something that had never been done before and has never been done since. It declared a human disease extinct, gone, wiped from the planet on purpose, the only human disease we have ever deliberately destroyed. But here is the part almost nobody tells you. The last person to die of smallpox did not die during an epidemic. She did not die in a distant country with a fragile health system. She died in 1978, in a modern British city, in a laboratory at a respected university. Her name was Janet Parker, and the story of how she died and of who died beside her is one of the most haunting chapters in the entire history of medicine. To understand why the world went to such extraordinary lengths to destroy this virus, you first have to understand what it did to a human body. Smallpox was caused by a virus called variola. It came in two main forms. Variola minor was the milder version, killing roughly 1 person in 100. Variola major was the killer. It killed about 1 in 3 of everyone it infected, and it left most of the survivors permanently scarred, and some of them blind. The disease began quietly. 12 days or so after exposure, the fever hit. Headache, aching muscles, exhaustion. Then came the rash. Small red spots that turned into raised bumps, then into hard, round, deep-seated pustules, spreading across the face, the arms, the palms, the soles of the feet. There was no cure. There was no antiviral, no treatment that touched the virus itself. All medicine could offer was water, care, and the hope that the patient's own body would win. And this was not a new enemy. It is one of the oldest we have on record. The mummy of the Egyptian pharaoh Ramses V, who died more than 3,000 years ago, carries pockmarks on its skin that many experts believe are the scars of smallpox. For most of recorded history, the virus was simply a fact of life and of death. In 18th century Europe, it is thought to have killed around 400,000 people every year, and it was one of the leading causes of blindness on the continent. It did not spare the poor, and it did not spare kings. And when Europeans crossed the Atlantic, they carried it with them. Smallpox and other imported diseases swept through populations with no immunity at all, killing enormous numbers of indigenous people and helping to bring down the Aztec and the Inca empires. This one virus reshaped the map of the world. Humanity fought back long before anyone understood what a virus even was. The oldest weapon was a practice called variolation. The idea was grim but effective. Deliberately infect a healthy person with material taken from a mild case of smallpox in the hope of triggering a weaker illness that left them immune for life. It was practiced for centuries across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. In the early 1700s, an English aristocrat, Lady Mary Wortley Montagu, saw it done in the Ottoman Empire and brought the practice back to England. Around the same time in Boston, an enslaved African man named Onesimus described the same technique to the man who held him and helped introduce it to America. Variolation worked, but it was dangerous. Roughly 1 or 2 people in 100 died from the procedure itself. It needed something safer. That something arrived in 1796 with an English country doctor named Edward Jenner. Jenner had noticed a piece of local folk wisdom. Milkmaids who had caught cowpox, a mild disease from cattle, seemed to be protected against smallpox. He decided to test it. He took material from a cowpox sore, scratched it into the arm of a young boy named James Phipps, and then, weeks later, deliberately exposed the boy to smallpox. The boy did not get sick. Jenner had found a way to grant immunity without the deadly risk. He called it a vaccine, from the Latin word for cow, vacca. It was the first vaccine in history. Over the next 150 years, vaccinations slowly pushed smallpox out of the wealthiest countries. But pushing it out of a few countries is not the same as removing it from the world. To even attempt that, smallpox turned out to have three rare weaknesses. First, humans are its only host. There is no hidden animal population where it can wait and return. Second, the symptoms are obvious, so cases are easy to spot and hard to hide. And third, there was a cheap, stable, effective vaccine. Almost no other disease has all three of those weaknesses at once. Smallpox did. That is the only reason what happened next was even possible. In 1967, the World Health Organization launched an intensified global campaign with a single, almost unthinkable goal: to erase smallpox from the earth. The effort was led by an American epidemiologist named Donald Henderson. Two tools made it work. The first was a freeze-dried vaccine that could survive tropical heat without a fridge, so it could travel into the most remote villages on the planet. The second was almost absurdly simple: the bifurcated needle, a small steel needle with two prongs that held a single dose of vaccine in a droplet between them. It needed barely any training to use, and one worker could vaccinate hundreds of people from a single vial. But the real breakthrough was a change in strategy. Instead of trying to vaccinate every single human being on Earth, which was impossible, the teams switched to something called surveillance and containment, or ring vaccination. Find every outbreak, then vaccinate everyone around each case in expanding rings so the virus had nowhere left to jump. Cut the chains of transmission one by one, and the disease starves. Case by case, country by country, the map went dark. In 1975, a young girl named Rahima Banu in Bangladesh became the last person on Earth to catch the deadly variola major in the wild and survive. Only the milder form was left, holding on in the Horn of Africa. And then, in October 1977, in Somalia, a hospital cook named Ali Maumalin caught the last naturally occurring case of smallpox in human history. He survived, and in one of the quiet, extraordinary details of this story, he went on to spend his life as a polio vaccination worker, trying to help wipe out the next disease. He died in 2013 of malaria while still doing that work. By 1978, variola existed nowhere in nature. It survived only inside a handful of high-security laboratories, and in one laboratory that was not nearly secure enough, at the University of Birmingham Medical School. Janet Parker was 40 years old. She was a medical photographer in the university's anatomy department, and she worked in a dark room on the floor, directly above the medical school's smallpox research laboratory. That laboratory was run by Professor Henry Bedson, a respected virologist, and Bedson was working against the clock. As smallpox vanished from the world, funding for smallpox research was drying up, and his lab was scheduled to close. He was rushing to finish his work before it did. Months earlier, he had been warned that the lab's safety procedures were not up to the required standard, and he had been given a deadline to improve them. That deadline had not yet arrived. On the 11th of August, 1978, Janet Parker came down with a headache and aching muscles. She went to work anyway. Over the following days, a rash appeared. At first, it was dismissed. Chickenpox, perhaps, or a drug reaction. It was almost 2 weeks before anyone said the word out loud. On the 24th of August, she was finally diagnosed. Alasdair Geddes, a local infectious disease expert who had himself worked on the smallpox eradication campaign in Bangladesh, suspected the impossible. And it was Bedson, from the lab downstairs, who confirmed it, recognizing the brick-shaped smallpox virus under an electron microscope. It was the first case of smallpox in Britain in years. The response was immediate and enormous. Janet Parker was moved to an isolation hospital. Her contacts were traced. Birmingham launched its own ring of protection. More than 50,000 people were vaccinated, and hundreds were placed under quarantine to make sure the virus could not escape into the city. But it had already reached her family. Her mother, Hilda, who had been caring for her, caught a mild case of the disease herself, despite having been vaccinated only weeks before. Hilda survived, but she was in isolation and could not attend her own daughter's funeral. Her father, it is reported, died of a heart attack during the ordeal. And then there was Bedson, the man whose lab had somehow been the source. On the 1st of September, he was found at his home with self-inflicted wounds. He died 5 days later, on the 6th of September. He left a note. He could not live with what had happened. Janet Parker died on the 11th of September, 1978, of the complications of smallpox. She was the last person on Earth ever recorded to die of the disease. The official investigation that followed, the shooter report, concluded that the virus had most likely escaped through the air, traveling up a poorly maintained service duct from the laboratory to the floor above. For years, that was the accepted story. But it did not survive scrutiny. When the university was later prosecuted over her death, it was acquitted. And expert witnesses argued that the tiny quantity of virus involved made that airborne route almost impossible. Some who studied the case came to a darker suspicion that she had somehow been inside the laboratory itself. The truth is, to this day, no one knows for certain how Janet Parker was infected. The only certainty is the strain of virus that killed her. It was called ABID, and it was the exact strain Bedson's lab had been growing just weeks before. Birmingham changed things. The tragedy hardened a simple conclusion. No live smallpox virus should ever again be kept in a laboratory inside an ordinary building in a crowded city. Safety rules were rewritten, and it sharpened a much larger question that the world has still not answered. What should be done with the samples that remained? In 1980, eradication was formally declared complete. WHO committees recommended more than once that all remaining stocks of the virus be destroyed. Deadlines to do so were set through the 1990s and 2000s, and then postponed again and again, because politics intervened. The United States argued it needed to keep the virus for defensive research in case the Soviet Union had secretly weaponized it. The Soviet Union made exactly the same argument about the Americans, and the fear was not imaginary. The Soviet Union really had run a vast secret biological weapons program, and smallpox was part of it. So the vials stayed. Today, 2 official repositories remain: the CDC in Atlanta and the Vector Institute in Novosibirsk in Russia. Both are supposedly maximum security. Both hold the last officially existing samples of a virus that killed hundreds of millions of people. But officially is the word that should keep you up at night. 2 things happened that show why. In July 2014, workers cleaning out an old cold storage room at a federal laboratory near Washington opened a forgotten cardboard box. Inside were 6 sealed glass vials, labeled variola, dating back to the 1950s. At least 2 of them still held live, viable smallpox virus. They had sat there, unrecorded and unguarded, for decades, outside every official inventory in the world. If those could be forgotten, the obvious question is, what else is out there? And in 2017, a research team in Canada, led by the virologist David Evans, recreated a close relative of smallpox called horsepox, essentially from scratch. They assembled it from fragments of DNA ordered through the mail for around $100,000 in roughly 6 months with a small team. Virologists were blunt about what it meant. If you can build horsepox this way, you can build smallpox, which means destroying the last vials would no longer guarantee the virus is truly gone. The instructions to rebuild it already exist, and the tools to do it keep getting cheaper. If you were born before the early 1970s, you probably carry a small circular scar on your upper arm. That is the mark of the smallpox vaccine. If you were born after that, you almost certainly do not, because by then, the disease was already gone, and there was nothing left to vaccinate against. That is what victory looks like, a scar that stopped being necessary. But this story leaves us with 2 prices paid on either side of that victory. Janet Parker's death was the price of almost getting this right, of holding on to the virus one deadline too long. And the vials that still remain, along with the ones that might be forgotten in a box or rebuilt from mail-order DNA, are the price of never quite finishing the job. We erased smallpox from the world. We just never quite let it go. Next week, the woman whose cells were taken without her knowledge and are still alive in laboratories all around the world today.